Virginia from Peaceful Acres Farm, and today we're going to be doing a watercolor cityscape. This virtual program is brought to you by Emmett O'Neal Library in Alabama. The very first thing we're going to do is go over supplies, and if you don't have some of the supplies, it's okay, we'll talk about substitutions. The first thing that you're going to need is paper. This is a watercolor pad of paper, but you can use whatever paper you want. You could use printer paper, you could even use a paper bag if you wanted. You need watercolor paint. If you don't have watercolor paint, you can use acrylics and just thin them with some water. Or any other kind of paint you have. You'll need a paintbrush. If you don't have a paintbrush, you could use a foam brush, or you could even use a folded up paper towel. A black marker or a black pen, or any other color you want, really. You'll need some masking tape or painter's tape, and if you don't have that, try using Scotch tape. And you'll need water. So when you're using watercolors, it's really important to have a clean water and a dirty water, and we're going to go over that while we paint. So this is something called a resist painting. So the very first step we're going to do is put down some tape to resist the paint. So if you look on the buildings, they're white, and then there's paint all around it. So the paint didn't get underneath the tape. It resisted it. So let's take our blank piece of paper and a piece of our tape. Now, if I were to just put this tape down on the paper, if I pulled it off, it might rip some of the paper off because it's a strong tape. So what you want to do is, if you're wearing a t-shirt, just take your tape and press it onto your t-shirt and then peel it off so that it's not quite as sticky. And then you want to start laying down your buildings, and you can just make them however you want. You can make them thick, thin, tall, skinny, however you want. So if you want your buildings to have flat tops, before you stick your tape down, just use a pair of scissors and cut across to get them nice and straight and even. And you're more than welcome to just block off as many as you want. And now we're ready to paint. So you want to get your paint, and the important thing with watercolors is to note the difference in how they paint when you paint on a wet surface versus a dry surface. Like I said before, we've got our clean water and our dirty water. When you're going to a new color on your paint palette, you want to go into your clean water. So I'm in my clean water. This one's going to be my clean, and this is going to be my dirty. And I think I'm going to do blue because it's a sky, and I like blue a lot. So now my paintbrush is dirty. It has paint on it. So if I need water right now, I'm going to go to my dirty water. So I'm going to dip in my dirty water and get it more wet. Okay, so this paper is dry. So let's see how this paint acts on a dry paper. That's pretty. Let's see, look, it's got those defined edges. It doesn't run around like you usually think of watercolors. It's a nice, smooth, pretty color. Let's see what happens when we do it on a wet paper. So I'm going to clean my paintbrush off. So clean your paintbrush off in your dirty water. And then you want to just dab that dirty water off on a paper towel and go back to your clean water, and let's wet our paper. We're going to see what happens with our clean water, of course. We're going to see what happens when we put the watercolor paint on the wet paper. Let's do the same color blue that we did before just to see what the difference looks like. Oh, see, that looks much different. See how it runs and the edges are nice and soft? You don't have the crisp edge that you had up there. Right. So now that you can see the difference and you know how to use your dirty water and your clean water, you can continue painting, and you paint it however you want and whatever color you want. Alright, when you're done, you want to let your paint sit and be completely dry before you peel your tape off, because if you're using watercolor, sometimes the water can run up under the tape. So now our paint is dry and it's time to peel off the tape. Just be really careful and go slow so you don't rip your paper. And you should have a nice crisp line. And now it's time to draw in your buildings. Now I used a black pen on mine to do the outline and to draw the windows, but you can use whatever color you want. You can also use markers or crayons, colored pencils, anything you want. You can make it really detailed, or you can just do basic outlines. I chose some buildings from around Birmingham for mine, and I decorated them like that. So I looked at pictures, I Googled Alabama Theater, and I tried to make mine look a lot like the Alabama Theater. There's the Lyric, the City Federal Building. You could do buildings you recognize, or you could make up your very own. I think I'm going to make this one a skyscraper. So I'm just going to trace up, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay if you see some of the white or some of the color in your building. I'm going to make it go across like that. And now you can add whatever kind of details you want. You could do a bunch of little windows. It's fun to kind of make up a building. And then just fill it in. Thank you guys so much for painting along with me. I have a couple of example pieces. This here is made by my 8-year-old son. And he did Hollywood. He's got the Hard Rock Cafe. He's got an Elvis museum. So you can make your buildings whatever you want. This was made by my 4-year-old. This is a music shop. And he did a flute and a piano. And somebody right here is going to play the guitar, I think. So you can make it whatever you want. It doesn't have to just be buildings, and it doesn't even have to be a city that you've ever seen before. You can just make it up. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions for future programs, send them to kmollering@eolib.org. Thanks!